The government of Zimbabwe would like to advise the public of progress made so far and to express its official position concerning the ongoing investigation into allegations about the abduction, forced disappearance, and torture perpetrated by yet to be identified assailants on Joanna Mamombe, Cecilia Chimbiri, and Netai Marova, all of whom are holders of positions of leadership in the Youth Assembly of the MDC Alliance. These incidents are alleged to have occurred between 13 May and 15 May 2020. From the outset, government wishes to state categorically that it does not engage in or permit any of its agencies and institutions to use such methods as torture, forced disappearance, or abductions. As a matter of fact, these terms are alien to our culture and way of doing things, and we believe they are extrapolated from foreign environments where they are rife in order to generate negative sentiments against our government for the benefit of the sponsors of regime change and their Trojan horses that now permeate and polarize our society. We indeed, as a people and government, appalled, I'll take that again, we are indeed, as a people and government, appalled at the mere suggestion that such heinous practices, including institutionalized rape of women, as often routinely peddled by opposition formations and their cause, without any substantiation, are alleged to be rearing their ugly head within our society. The thrust of the current combined multi-agents investigation is two-pronged. First, it seeks to establish whether the alleged kidnapping did occur. Secondly, it also seeks to identify the alleged perpetrators, whether purporting to act on behalf of government or other forces, and bring them to justice. This does not, however, detract from or interfere with the separate investigation and due process which are concurrently underway concerning the trio's alleged participation in an illegal demonstration in Warren Park, Harare on 13 May 2020. Without at all conclusively dismissing the trio's allegation of torture, forced disappearance, and kidnapping, it is paramount to bring the following glaring inconsistencies that are coming to light between the account of events and the results of the investigation so far. Firstly, there is very consistent contamination of the various crime scenes and the entire chain of evidence relevant to this case by MDC Alliance leaders, activists, and several officials from foreign embassies in Harare who gained access thereto ahead of the investigating authorities. Secondly, the complainants, for a long time after they were discovered at Muchapondwa village near Bindura, where they claimed to have been dumped after their ordeal, refused outright to give their statements to the investigating authorities, feigning incapacity due to the torture they claimed to have endured. Ironically, Cecilia Chimbiri hails from a village not far from where they claim to have been dumped. This makes it unsustainable for them to pretend not to know where they were, even the direction of Harare therefrom at that material time. They would feign confusion and hysteria at the mere sight of policemen. They are doctors and lawyers who, not by coincidence, hail from the Zimbabwe Human Rights Doctors Association and the Zimbabwe Human Rights, both avid critics of government. And I'll take that again, and the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, both avid critics of government, jointly claim that the trio were too traumatized psychologically and therefore under heavy sedation, which rendered it impossible for them to undergo any interviews. What is glaringly inconsistent with this position is that during the alleged heavy sedation, MDC Alliance officials and the diplomats mentioned above, including foreign media houses, had unfettered access to them, during which they interacted freely and even recorded graphic accounts of what they claimed as having transpired, but denying the same to police. As a result, police only managed to record official statements from Cecilia Chimbiri on 19 May 2020, and from Joanna Mamombe and Nensai Marova on 25 May 2020, 1 week and 2 weeks after the alleged abduction, respectively. Needless to say, without at all preempting due process of the law, their three statements show glaring signs of rehearsal and even possible coaching, which may not stand up to rigorous cross-examination. Thirdly, there is no relationship whatsoever between the findings of the medical examination that was carried out on them by a government medical officer in the presence of two human rights doctors of their choosing on 15 May 2020, and the injuries they claim to have suffered as a result of being subjected to beatings with open palms, booted feet, fists, rifle butts, and other blunt objects, including being thrown out of a moving car and being cut up with broken bottles and razor blades on their backs. There was no evidence of any swelling, fresh lacerations, wounds, or even fractures consistent with the kind of manhandling they claim to have gone through. This being the case, it is important to advise the public that in a bid to ascertain if there was any rape or sexual assault, samples were taken and results are pending. Fourthly, it is telling that the trio in their initial accounts did not deny that they took part in the flash demonstration in Warren Park prior to and leading to their alleged disappearance thereafter. Indeed, irrefutable evidence of their participation abounds in the form of still images and videos of the said demonstrations as it unfolded. However, in their statements, they now claim that they only went as far as OK Marimba to buy some groceries for some philanthropic purpose in Joanna Mamombe's Harare West constituency, and thereafter drove back towards Harare Central Business District. They are now also claiming that the police roadblock at which they were arrested in the first instance was on Samora Machel outside Harare Showgrounds, where in their initial accounts they claimed that they had been arrested at a roadblock outside National Sports Stadium on the same road. It is perhaps understandable that this misrepresentation may be intended to avoid incriminating themselves against the charges that have been leveled against them in relation to their participation in the illegal Warren Park demonstration. This therefore renders it difficult for anyone to tell which is fact or fiction in the accounts. Incidentally, all policemen who were at both roadblocks along Samora Machel, that is outside the National Stadium, and the Harare Showgrounds have been interviewed as part of the investigation, and none of them testifies to ever having seen the trio or witnessed the events they allege. Fifth, while Joanna Mamombe claims to have been driving her own vehicle, Mercedes-Benz silver in color, registration number AFE 9222, checks with Central Vehicle Registration records show that the current owner of the vehicle sold it to one Andrew Manongore in January 2020, who is yet to complete change of ownership formalities into his own name. There are emerging unsavory social connotations relating to this ownership triangle, which we opt to leave out for another day. More substantively, pertinent to the present case is that while Joanna Mamombe and her fellow complainants claim that they parked the vehicle behind TM Supermarket, O Street, Harare on 13 May 2020, in the process of their being arrested, there are eyewitnesses who claim that the vehicle was only parked there on Saturday, 16 May 2020, after 3 p.m., where it was then discovered on 18 May 2020. The discrepancies of facts are interesting aspects of further inquiry, particularly considering that Joanna Mamombe in her statement to the police said she had personally locked her car and took the keys with her in her pocket at the time of her abduction. Sixth, the most compelling discrepancy is in the analysis of the technical evidence available to the investigation concerning the trio's movements from 12 May 2020 up to mid-morning on 14 May 2020. This evidence, which is irrefutable, shows very clearly that the three converged somewhere in Harare in the morning of 13 May 2020, drove along Samora Machel Avenue to Warren Park, where they spent just under 2 hours, most probably participating in the demonstration, and then drove back together to Harare CBD via Rugare, Lokingva, and Harare Kopi. The evidence does not place any of them on Samora Machel Avenue between Warren Park and Harare CBD, or at either of the two roadblocks at National Sports Stadium and the Harare Showgrounds, where they claim to have been abducted. The evidence also places the trio somewhere in the Kopi area, around the vicinity of the Fidelity Life Towers, before they moved to the vicinity of Advocates' Chambers in Old Mutual Building, where Chamisa's private offices are incidentally located. They spent substantial unexplained time in both locations. From Advocates' Chambers, they moved to Cecilia Chimbiri's residence at number 6 Marina Court, corner 6 and Baines Avenue. From there, Joanna Mamombe straight to Golden Stairs in the vicinity of Ash B2 service station around 16:07 hours, then to Belgravia an hour later, back to Fidelity Towers around 21:39 hours, then back to Chimbiri's flat around 21:40 hours. These movements are taking place long after they claimed to have been abducted, and after they also claimed to have had left their phones in Joanna Mamombe's parked and locked car. Netai Marova also moved around quite traceably, but separate from the other two, for a while, way after her alleged abduction. Lastly, it is important to point out that an opposition-aligned NGO called the Counseling Services Unit is headquartered in the Kopi area, in the vicinity of Fidelity Life Towers, where the trio spent close to 30 minutes on their way into Harare CBD from Warren Park. This outfit, an appendage of the so-called Zimbabwe Doctors for Human Rights, also runs Westgate 24 Medical Center, where the trio first opted to be taken but found closed, as well as Parktown Hospital, where they ended up being admitted to this day under the care of the Zimbabwe Doctors Human Rights. The two doctors who are attending to them, namely Dr. Nyamande and Dr. Matara, are not ordinarily located, or rather locally based. One is based in Switzerland and the other in the United States of America, but both found themselves in Zimbabwe at the victim's bedside at the opportune time. Very critical questions arise as to whether this chain of events, including presence of these doctors in Zimbabwe, is coincidental or reflects premeditation and malicious choreography on the part of the victims, those who are helping them, and the negative motives of the MDC Alliance. Given this maze of lack of clarity between fact and fiction, we cannot forget that the opposition in Zimbabwe is in the habit of staging fake abductions and disappearances ahead of major international events in order to force Zimbabwe onto those agendas in a negative way. Previous examples which conform to the same familiar script, whenever such allegations have been made, dates as far back as the inception of the regime change agenda with the formation of the MDC in 1999. There was the drama of Grace Quinje and an accomplice being bandaged up like mummies and being airlifted to Australia for medical care, only to also appear a few days later, all healed and spruced up without scars and mummy bandages. Then there was Chamisa, Gonyeti, Mawarire, Magombei, and now this present case, to name only a few cases of the same script. The bandages and the medical melodrama are all the handiwork of the Zimbabwe Doctors for Human Rights. In perspective, there was the president's bilateral meeting with President Nyusi of Mozambique and the follow-up SADC Troika Summit, which took place in Harare under the president's chairmanship at the time of these allegations. There was also the impending re-engagement between Zimbabwe and the European Union, which might have been targeted by this negativity. Authoritative information available to this investigation also indicates that there is a 10-month-long American scholarship on offer for 10 MDC Alliance Youth Assembly candidates in the United States of America. It turns out that this trio have attended this course before and would now be expected to defer to others who had not attended to it. But they are desperate to go. This charade, if it is what we think it is indeed for, seeks to position the trio by default of the sympathy surrounding these allegations to benefit from these American scholarship as a reward. Be that as it may, the government of Zimbabwe is determined to get to the bottom of this saga, to expose it if it is fake, and to ensure that it will not happen again. Should these allegations turn out to be true, the government of Zimbabwe is equally determined to bring the culprits to justice. Indeed, the truth will speak for itself ultimately. The investigation continues. I thank you.